You know that voice in your head saying there has to be more than this? What if you actually listen to it? The Secret Life of TK Dutes follows TK, artist, producer, dreamer, as she does exactly that, navigating life on her own terms, from airports to dentist offices to crossing borders. Each episode drops you into a new world through this groundbreaking, loose autobiography told in a community of voices. It's raw, authentic, and it's about doing you. As TK puts it, a better life can be a hustle. It doesn't have to be a secret. Follow TK for more of her secret life at tastyquiche.com/secretlifepod, on Instagram at tastyquiche, and Philos Future Media. Listen to The Secret Life of TK Dutes on all major podcast platforms today. And while you're there, be sure to rate, review, and comment. Welcome to the fourth season of Heard, Afros Audio Interview Series. My guest today is Aaron David Harris. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm honored that you invited me to be on this. I'm a fan of the conference, fan of the series. Happy to be here.
Thank you, man. I'm looking forward to this conversation, especially the topics that we're going to talk about today. For people who don't know you yet, how do you describe what you do?
I describe what I do as audio dramas. Specifically, I would call myself someone who makes anime for your ears. I don't know if that kind of makes sense. You hear a lot of people talk about audio dramas are movies for your ears. And that's a common term that people use, and I guess we'll get into later the disadvantages of pigeonholing yourself that way. But I would say that I make anime for your ears in the sense that I came from a world where I desired to be in animation. And when animation became really expensive for me, I switched gears and went the audio route, and it created something that I never could have imagined. It created avenues that I'm still learning about and still exploring today. So to answer your question, I would describe myself as an audio drama producer, independent. I am a Black man, obviously, but as we know, Blackness is not a monolith. Could you say that I make Black stories? I think I make Black stories because I'm a Black man and my experience colors all of the stories that I tell. But I leave it up to the listeners to decide how Black it is. So I hope that answers the question.
Sure, it answers the question. You're marrying things that I love, anime, huge anime fan. Audio dramas is how I actually got into podcasting in 2017. And the Afros in Audio, the very first iteration of it was for audio drama creators and producers.
Oh, man.
But the market wasn't there at the time. At that time, Issa Rae's Fruit was out and Lorenz Tate's Bronzeville was out. And then there was my 4-part rom-com that I put out as the independent in the space. So again, man, I can't wait to geek out on audio dramas with you because it's an exciting world. And you know, since then, Black audio dramas exist, which I'm sure you know about, is a full directory of so many creators and producers in the space. And that's what Afros in Audio was meant to be when it first came out.
That's so wild.
Now I'm so glad to see how we have become a part of the space. As you can probably see, I have this book behind me, Richard Durham, who was our first radio drama ancestor in this space in the Golden Era Radio. And it's meaningful that we are able to now do what we could never do in radio dramas back then. And now the podcasting has presented itself, we can create these stories.
It's so interesting to hear that you started off in audio dramas as a brand, as an organization, when the term podcasting today doesn't really include the drama space the way that you would think it would include it. Yes, we know they exist. There are awards and categories for them. But when you say the word podcast today, you're not necessarily talking about a full audio production of fictional stories. You're talking about what we're doing right now, which is just a couple of people having a conversation about a subject or a range of subjects. And I do sometimes feel like the audio drama itself, we're now the stepchild almost. And I don't want to say black sheep, but we're only a podcast in the sense that we use the same distribution models. We use the same Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, and all the other however many dozens of ways you can distribute a podcast. But then once the person presses play, we are presenting a completely different product than what was just nominated and ultimately won at the Golden Globes for podcasts. That's what people think of today as a podcast. Even if it's highly produced, even if it's a narrative podcast, it's not a audio drama, which is funny to me because just like the origins of Afros and audio started in audio dramas, you can make an argument that the origin of recorded audio entertainment began with radio dramas. My mom used to tell me about how she listened to Superman on the radio and Batman on the radio and then soap operas on the radio before they transitioned into those Adam West and Christopher Reeve's 60s, 70s. Before transitioning all of that, you were hearing them on the radio. Not even driving to work, you'd have a radio at home. And so it's interesting sort of the trajectory that it's gone on and how it affects audio drama producers at large. But then you put Black audio drama producers on top of that. Whatever the struggles are, it's like a double minority. I talked to my daughter about like double minority and what that means. You're not just a Black person, you're also a Black woman. That's a double minority. That's some double stuff. Certain things I don't have to deal with because you're both Black and a woman. It's the same with being a Black audio drama producer, where we're already as audio drama folks in this basement Chitlin circuit version of podcasting. But then on top of that, below that, now you're talking about Black stories, even beneath the rice and beans circuit. But it's fascinating that's where we are. But that doesn't mean, and I don't mean to speak pessimistically about that either, because that just means there's more opportunities to explore. There's more opportunities to take risks. And not to toot my own horn, but I broke out my Ambie behind me today to illustrate that. I'm able to compete with people with hundreds of millions of dollars more in production budget and marketing budget. Because of what could be looked at as a disadvantage, I look at it as a opportunity. And I'm swinging big. Most times I miss big, but then other times I win big. Being a Black audio drama producer in a world where people aren't necessarily checking for me or checking for what I do, it allows certain advantages that I don't think I could get if I did what I came out here to do, which was animation. I would be taking a lot more risks and getting a lot less reward.
Yeah. And one of many, as you were saying, one of many swallowed up in that industry. You could be a breakout in any industry, but there's a lot out there. And I definitely resonate with what you're saying. Being able to be an indie person in this genre, in audio drama, in podcasting, it does give you this opportunity to say, hey, we're here too. We've got something to say. We're creating, we're producing in this space. And because there's not thousands already out, check it out. You might be surprised at what you hear. And I have listened to some of the episodes of your podcast and I can hear the anime and all of that. So I didn't make the connection directly, but I didn't read the description, anything like that. I just pressed play. But yeah, I can see that. And that's really cool, man. And speaking of your awards, you won the 2025 Podcast Academy Award for Best Fiction Podcast. What did that moment mean for you personally? And what did it say to you about audio fiction as a medium?
So what it meant for me personally was, I think as an artist, I think we all want the Academy Award moment. We want to be able to step on a stage, hold up a trophy, accept the win, and thank the people that helped you get there. Anime doesn't win Academy Awards. Anime doesn't win Oscars. So that meant I came into doing all of this, even when I was doing animation. What I do is never going to win an Academy Award. And so I just accepted that. I'm going to do what I do and I'm going to do what I love. Yeah. And I just accepted that I would never win an Oscar or would never win an Academy Award. And this is me in college. And then years later, now I'm doing this. And it's like, this is what people consider an Oscar in what I do. And not just like a writing Oscar or a performance Oscar. This is Best Fiction Podcast. And so that meant as a whole, everything came together in a way that just felt right. It was magic. The Ambies are still young. I do think they're going to grow and they're going to really become a branded award. And so it'll be awesome when those moments happen and they'll look in the history and they'll find this Aaron David Harris guy And that's personal because they're going to see who I went up against. They're going to see the other nominees. So they'll know who Amazon is, and they'll know who iHeartMedia is, and they'll know who Electronic Arts is, and they'll know who Wondery is or was. They'll know who Netflix was. Those were all of the other nominees in my group. And we came out on top. That year, that moment, we came out on top. This dude, I live in Chino, California, about 40 miles from LA. I travel in and out to LA all the time. I'm pitching stuff to people, these same people. I'm pitching stuff to them all the time. And we came out and we won. So personally, not just the win, but then being able to validate the win with we were on the same level. And then what it meant for audio fiction, that's an interesting question because on one hand, I feel like, again, what I was saying about us being on the sort of obscure part of podcasting, I'm not saying it wasn't important. It's the top award in what I do, but it's not necessarily the top award in podcasting per se. If you watch the Oscars, they work up to Best Picture. And so the other awards that are under Best Picture, there's how you rank in the importance. We're about 4 or 5 down from Best Podcast of the Year, which is their like Best Picture of the Year. So being able to get up there closer to the end, I was like, they care about fiction podcasts. They do see that there's an old school lineage to how audio entertainment, they do see it. But what I'm hoping for is we talk about something being the Oscar of podcasting. I don't want just the Oscar of podcasting. I want an EGOT of podcasting. I want to know, okay, here's an Ambie. You might throw a Webby on it. Then a Grammy, because Grammys has their audio category. And then maybe think of one more that you could throw in there. I want us to form that. EGOT for podcasting or an EGOT for audio dramas. And we can have our own acronym. Yeah. I had that idea when I wanted to do animation. I wanted to have an animation EGOT. So I was going to make up my own acronym. And then when I got into podcasting, I was like, I can still do that, but with podcasting. And then when I saw the landscape of fiction podcasting, I'm like, maybe I could do it more with audio dramas and not necessarily just podcasting. So what it meant to me was the Ambie could be step 1 in the other 3 letters that I would add to the acronym.
Yes. There's a few things that you said, both in the early response and this one. As I mentioned, me starting in audio fiction in 2017, I have been able to see it grow in the spaces. And especially, again, seeing the Black Audio Drama Exist directory that began maybe in 2020, 2021, seeing that long list of creators, having conversations, heard series. We've talked to different audio drama creators in this series from the first 2 now. And I've seen it grow. And just like podcasting and us in the space, I think it's up to us to make sure that we are seen, heard, putting ourselves at the table while knowing that we are simultaneously building this other table at the same time. So it takes folks like you to say, you know what, I'm going to get my podcast submitted into this award series. And when I win, because you just proved that podcasting or audio is an equal playing field. No matter what they have, no matter what you have, all of us are right here together. And I understand the idea of we aren't where we could be, but I truly believe that folks like yourself, folks like myself who keep saying audio dramas, right? This is where it's at. This is where, and we'll get to a question later on in our conversation too. I think it's a fiction writer's playground. Just think about how you can expand in this space. So we've got work to do for sure, but you're a part of that work and you're doing it. And so I just want to say congratulations for what you've accomplished, what you've achieved, and the fact that you're here now. And I'm grateful for that, man.
I appreciate that, number one. And I'm not here alone. I've been able to work with some really amazing cast members from all over the world. I got my beautiful wife who is times where I wanted to quit and stop pivoting. She wouldn't let me. So I have a lot of people to thank for being here. She's the main person. If you go back and look at my Ambie speech, she's the number one person that I thank profusely within the acceptance speech. The work is so interesting too because I have my master's degree in creative writing with a specialization in screenwriting. And one of the things that you learn when you want to be a screenwriter, they say, yeah, write your script, but maybe you have to figure out how to get your movie made. And then they're, okay, maybe you can't get your feature made. How about you get a short film? And then you look at the budgets for those, how you do that. With permits and things of that nature, you can still end up spending 20 grand. And this is 2015. Things are really changing now, but then you spend 20 grand and it's like you get one 5-6 minute film that you struggled to Frankenstein together. Yeah. And this happened to me in maybe 2018, 2019. I went to Atlanta. They had a conference called the Screencraft Conference, and it was just like a screenwriters convention, aspiring and all that. And there was a guy named Donald Albright. I don't know if that name is familiar to you. Black guy, Donald Albright, based in Atlanta.
Tenderfoot TV.
Tenderfoot. He was down there, and I saw him at the Ambies, and I told him this story. He came there to give a specific panel discussion on creating fiction podcasts, taking your screenplay that you've committed your time to, and oh, hey, that 20 grand that you thought you needed, what if I told you only needed 5? And not only would you be able to tell your whole story for 5, you might even be able to tell it for 2, and then the rest of your budget could be used to just promote it or make it the best that it can be.
Yeah.
That was a real epiphany moment for me. I still had my eye on animation. I still had other wheels turning for animation, but I put his notes in I still have those notes in my notes on my phone. And I kept that for years, and I kept it in like my back hip pocket for years. All this stuff he said about how you can get it made and what you can do and the places you can distribute it at and everything. And I'm sort of an evangelist now. I'm getting ready to go to Slam Dance, another film festival that kind of really jump-started me as a filmmaker, as a creator. Tonight is the open night for the festival. And I'm an evangelist now when I'm talking to other people who are screenwriters and even other people who have made films. I'm like, your films are great, and I know you feel limited by your budget. Imagine what you could do in the audio space with that. It'll feel like you have an unlimited budget. And now I can tell them, hey, listen, Kerry Washington is doing big things with them now. Kevin Hart is doing big things with them now. Winston Duke is doing big things with them now. Check them out. The resources it takes to make that, you're not far off from doing that yourself. Most people rent out a large studio somewhere, LA, New York, Jersey, somewhere, and bring on their voice actors, which is, I'm not hating on that at all. It's a great thing. I wish I could do more of that. But more likely than not, what I'm doing is I'm relying on the voice actor in their own home studios. And I'm communicating with them on platforms like this and giving them directions. And then I do it with another actor and another actor, and then I edit all that together. I bring all of that together. Mm-hmm. And some people have that ability. And then some people would prefer the coming together in that sort of communal environment where you can work off of each other. Either way works. What I'm saying is audio gives you the ability to have both of those options open to you. The money that you were going to spend 20 grand for a film, take some of that at a recording studio, at a really nice one, and maybe you can bring in Keith David. Keith David will do anything, man, as long as it's good and he likes it. I saw Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne at the Voice Arts Awards a month ago. They're down for stuff like this. And they're okay if it's not paying the same rate as they would do for a Nickelodeon special or a National Geographic special. They're okay with that. And then they look at a guy like me and I tell them I won an Ambie, you know what I mean? Or I say Podcast Academy Award. So again, I'm an evangelist for the work that you can do.
As you should, yeah.
The work that you can do, it's right there for you. You do have to shift gears and pivot a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. It's its own animal. And I've had those conversations with creators who were specifically in film, script writing, screenwriting, television. And obviously, it's a different way to translate your vision into audio so that the listener and audience understands what's happening.
I do want to talk about like the difference. There is a bit of a schism in how you go about doing that, whether you just use sound effects and dialogue, or do you use a narrator? People who have different thoughts on whether you should or whether you, and I hope we get a chance to talk about that because I have thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. And piggybacking off of what you were talking about, where the actors are down and creators have this opportunity, it keeps people working.
Mm-hmm.
It builds a portfolio in the meantime, in between time, while you're waiting on that budget or that green light for your project or whatever. It allows space for a person like yourself, a creator, a screenwriter, an actor, to continue working, to continue their craft and creating. Because if you're creative, that's like kind of what we want to do 100% of the time. And so when the opportunities aren't there, now here you go, the audio space and what's possible here. Please feel free to go ahead and talk about those nuances there.
And I was just talking to somebody who attended Afros and Audios, Richard
Sinek.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you know him. And we were having this conversation because we went to each other's seminars. I had a really nice time. That's what I loved about Afros and Audios. That was the best thing about it, was connecting with people who do what you do specifically. Yeah. And me and Richard had a really great, interesting conversation. And one of the things we talked about was the frowned uponness that certain parts of the audio drama communities has about the concept of using narration. Me and him both had experiences at different web festivals where I got accepted to one. And I don't know if you've ever been to like a web festival versus a film festival. A film festival, you get accepted, you get your official selection, you premiere your film in front of people, and then you do a Q&A. I had one that I was accepted to in Toronto, the TO Web Fest, and it's a great festival. And the people there were really kind to me, and I couldn't make it, but they actually had it set up so that you could premiere your audio the same way you do with regular films, which is very rare. You don't see that. And I'm talking about like your episode that you submitted in full in a theater. You put your cover art in front of the audio, and if you're smart, you put a QR code that links them back to the site, whatever. I did the Q&A via virtual, like I'm doing this with you. And everybody liked what I submitted and were very complimentary. There were a couple of folks in the audience who had their thoughts about whether or not what I provided was an audio drama or was it an audio book, because there was narration used to advance the story from one part to the next. And the same thing happened with Richard. He has a series where a narrator gets you from one part to the next. And I can only go by what I do. And when I say anime for your ears, when I say martial arts and video games and Street Fighter and Godzilla and stuff like that, versus a story about a court case or a story about a love drama, something like that, there's a necessity for me. There's a necessity. My thing is comprehension is king. You heard the term content is king. For me, comprehension is king. I would rather, if there's a scene and you hear some metal jangling, it might be keys in somebody's pockets, or it might be a bag of pennies or a bag of coins rattling around in somebody's hand. I would rather just tell them that it's keys rather than that moment of them having to guess, because I'm trying to be artsy, or at the very least, is what I said before about the industry being very niche. What happens sometimes when you're niche is that it becomes a treehouse. And then the treehouse has these rules. And then the rules become law or religion. So then you stop asking, why are we doing it this way? It happens in audio dramas. It happens with fighting games. And that's another passion of mine that led into what I created. And I respect all forms of audio dramas, all forms of putting them together. But I will acknowledge that there are people out there who I think limit what an audio drama should and shouldn't be because of the nicheness of what we do.
Yeah.
And is that a challenge that we overcome? Is that just a reality that we accept? I don't know if one way is going to trend more than the other. All I can say is I like the way I do it. I like using a narrator. I like it that way. I like that if there's going to be a criticism, then it's not going to be, I didn't understand what happened in the story. I wasn't clear on the theme.
And I believe in the creator's prerogative. I believe that as long as we do things accordingly, then that's how it will always be, right? According to arbitrary rules, whatever, that's how it will remain. And it takes folks who are willing to say, yeah, I see what you did over there, but this is what I'm seeing, and this is my vision, and this is what I'm going to create and what I'm going to put out there, and allow it to breathe and live. Because what you'll find is that people will start to adjust and adapt to that.
Yeah.
So we've got to be willing to evolve any space, and podcasting being what it is, audio dramas being what it is. You alluded to it earlier. It is still open season. Like, we can do whatever we want to do in the space, and who's going to tell us we can't? No one's doing that in this moment.
Yeah.
But we can tell ourselves, I can't. I can do that. I can say, they say no narrators, so I'm going to stick to that. Or I can say, they say no narrators, but I'm going to do it anyway and see how they receive it or how it turns out.
I'll tell you,
I don't believe in that at all.
As an art form, I think you're right. It's creative prerogative. But success breeds those sort of rules. What I mean by that is, for every Ambie or every Toronto Web Festival or other festival that I get in doing it my way, I wonder, I've not even won or been nominated for a Webby. I've entered 3 times for a Webby. Same thing with the Signal Awards. I know they work a little differently, but they're owned by the same company. I just did the Image Awards. I took a big swing last year with the Grammys, and we made the ballot, but we didn't move to that next round and into the nominations. And I do wonder, particularly with the Webbies and the Signals, I do wonder if the voting body may look at, because I'm comparing it to what I had. So with the Ambies, I won, and I was the only person that used the narration. In the Webbies, I went and listened to all of the ones that would win or get nominated for Webbies. All of them were dialogue heavy, no narration, just the music and dialogue and sound effects. I do wonder if there's certain governing bodies that didn't write it in their bylaws for what makes an eligible podcast, but are there a group of like-minded people who see the audio fiction space as a place that should be separate from audiobooks, and that separation occurs when you just rely on dialogue and sound effects? So again, as an artist, I can do what I want and I can submit to what I want, and there's no rules that are laid out that says in the scripted fiction podcast category, only 10% of the episode can have narration. I'm just making that up. No one's laying that out for me, but I can only infer from what my results have been. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that you're inferring, and you don't know. It's a maybe not. They didn't say no narrators, no narration, and that they're all, as you said, like-minded people. Maybe not, but they're all humans. You hope. There's no AI judging in it, but it's possible. But I say all that to say, I don't believe that folks know. I think there's still a lot of education that has to happen from podcasting to audio drama, and still stand 10 toes down on the creator's prerogative, because that is also our ability to change the way people think and feel and know about what it is that we are creating. And that's our duty. That's our responsibility. And so I wouldn't say ever to stop what you're doing, because then it allows them to say, this is what it looks like. This is how it must be. So all of us are working, whether you're the judge or the creator. All of us are working in a space that is ever evolving, and we get to make up these rules as we go. And I'm not for
saying one or the other.
I'm a revolutionary. I'm not going to just box myself into anything. If you didn't choose me or select me, it is what it is. I don't know what it is because we're not talking about it. But at the same time, I put what I created out, and that's enough for me. Maybe not for everyone, but enough for me.
Well, and rejection is always going to be part of this. For every Ambie type thing that I get, I take another big swings or small swings. I have competed for, won and lost, won and been selected for the various film festivals, from the ones you've heard of to ones you've never heard of. It's like Slam Dance to other things that are smaller. The Directors Guild of America Awards, the Producer Guilds of America Awards. I've competed for Emmy Awards. I've competed for Daytime Emmys, Children Emmys. I mentioned the Image Award. I mentioned the Grammys. So, like, rejection is part of it. I specifically bring up the narration thing
Yeah.
because I think there's a cultural thing to it. I think we, as in Black people, I do really feel like we are the caretakers, the owners of oral tradition. And oral tradition is narration. When you
Yeah.
just say, oh, we're going to do dialogue and exposition, that's theatrical. That's the theater. That's something that's very Western. You get what I mean? I'm not saying that we don't do it and don't excel at it. I'm saying what is thought of.
Yeah.
When you think of oral tradition, you can't not think of Black people when you say oral tradition.
Right.
But the theatrical presentation of entertainment, for whatever reason in this space, certain people seem to say that's the more sophisticated, because that's what I hear. People think the narration is the crutch. The movies for your ears thing, I mentioned this earlier and I'm bringing it back up again, because that's what people want it to be. They're trying to translate, ooh, if I close my eyes, I'm actually in a movie right now when I listen to this. That's what they think immersion means. That's what they think sophisticated, complex storytelling in the audio space is. When I talk to certain people who embrace the it shouldn't have narration line. And that's the only reason I bring it up. Culturally, just like everything else that we talk about, especially in entertainment, there's a cultural
Yeah.
divide. I haven't heard anybody who is a minority push back against using narration. And that's not the case on the other side of it with no narration. And that's something that me and Rich talked about.
Right. Yeah. And I think just like anything, however, as the global majority, as a people, what always happens is that there is the extraction and extrapolation from our culture and even the oral history, oral storytelling. And therefore, I still say that it's up to us to continue to push the envelope as we always do, bring that diversity to it, allow it to adjust and adapt around us versus the other way around. But as a creator's prerogative, you can adjust and adapt to how you think that they measure the success. I don't necessarily believe that external measurement has a place for a creative because we're imagining things. That's just how I feel about it, but I respect the conversation and whatever it is. But I do think that the more the envelope is pushed, the more we create the way we want to create, then the industry, as it always has, and that could be any industry, any medium, more often than not, is adjusting to what it is that we are putting out there because it tends to be the better of what's happening. Everything else is vanilla. I'm gonna ask you another
Yeah,
question.
sure.
When you're creating an audio anthology, what does world building look like for you without a camera? What has that process taught you as a storyteller?
Okay, I've mentioned animation a lot. Everything that I put together in the audio space, I always approach it as though I was going to be making this into animation because that was what I was going to do. I'm very much influenced by, I mentioned anime, but if I really want to talk about it, it's three specific things. It's X-Men, the animated series, it's Street Fighter 2, and it's the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Those are the three core things that got me into wanting to be a creative professional. I want to make stuff like that. That's the stuff that I do. X-Men is about the people being different and then using your differences as something super or something fantastical. For me, the Power Rangers was like the martial arts element. And then Street Fighter was the choice element, the multiple choices. So when you click on Street Fighter and you go to the character selection screen, you have all of these characters that you can pick. And based on what you want as a person and who you vibe with, that's the experience that you want. You play Mario, you got to play the stages in a certain order. You play another game, you got to play in a certain order. But when you play Street Fighter, the characters you pick, you don't have to pick them in any order. Ryu's the star character. What if I want to play with Chun-Li? What if I want to play with the black boxer who they don't let kick? That still bothers me. I have a whole rant. You've played Street Fighter before. They have the original Street Fighter 2. There's only one black character in the game. And of all of the superhuman abilities they have in that game, not only does the black boxer not get none of that, but they don't even let the brother kick. Sorry, because it really gets me upset.
Yeah,
It really
no
gets me
problem,
upset.
man.
But anyway, and I'm really trying to track back because I could go on for that because it bothers me so much. The bottom line is you get choice. The reason why I picked that black bastard is because he looked like my uncle. I want to play with the guy that looked like my uncle.
Yeah.
And so those three elements, superhuman abilities, martial arts, and choice, those are the three things that make up Tales of Fists and Fireballs, available wherever you get your podcasts. And the stories were meant to be like those characters that you can pick and choose. Yeah, they were released in different dates, but by the time you see them, you will have the option to choose the story you want to start with and choose the story you relate to the most. So it starts from there. And then the world building itself, I've been asked if the characters are related or would the characters from one story ever meet the characters from the other story. The option is always open for that. But I like the idea of them existing on their own and being enough on their own. You could play Street Fighter and just play one character and never play with the other characters and be happy. You could do that. That's the basis of a lot of gaming, that people who go to Evo and compete for championships in Street Fighter or championships in Samurai Showdown. They pick the one guy that's going to bring them to the dance, and that's their guy, and that's who they're going to train with, practice with, learn the stories about. Yeah, there are these other characters, maybe they're interested in them, but they have the choice. And so I like having them be able to have the choice. The only thing that really unifies all of the stories, again, they're all stories about fantastical battles where there is a lesson to be learned. I'm an 80s baby, 90s kid. So I grew up in the era of, I brought up X-Men, but X-Men the animated series had the lessons that they're teaching you about how to treat people, and there's socio-political things that they mention. Like X-Men was only a kid's show in the sense that they didn't bleed or cuss. Everything else could be understood by a kid, teenager, or adult. And so all of the stories are fantastical battles that kind of have a ending that makes you either learn something or reaffirm something. And then in the second season of Tales of Fists and Fireballs, I was very intentional about more Black voice talents. I was very intentional about it. And then I was also very intentional about the stories that I tell being personal stories, being stories that came from a place that existed in a reality of mine. So an example might be episode 3 in season 2, which is called Gammy's Baby. Just a quick synopsis. Gammy's Baby is about these two elderly Black women who are like basically Gundam pilots, but they both share a grandchild and they don't like each other, and mostly because they want to be like the alpha grandma. They don't want to share the grandbaby. That's my grandbaby. And things come to a head and they decide that they're going to have a mech battle to see who gets to take care of the grandbaby for the summer. That came from a very personal place in my life. I mentioned to you before, I have 5 kids, but we only have one daughter. And in real life, my mom and my mother-in-law are not best friends, to put it nicely. And a lot of it stemmed from them both wanting to make sure that they're the main grandma. Yeah. There's no grandma A or grandma B. That's the other grandma over there. And nobody wants to be the other grandma. Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun now, but it caused a lot of issues. It was challenging.
I can imagine.
Uncomfortable conversations. Yeah. And then as my daughter is getting older, and especially back when she wasn't just our only girl, she was the only child from my wife and I, period. So a lot of the dialogue that's in that episode, some of them are real life things that my mom and my mother-in-law have said to each other as it relates to the care of my daughter. When my wife and I want to go on a trip somewhere and we can't because they're having this issue. And I thought to myself, I wish I could just put the two of them in giant robots and let them hash it out. I wish that I could do that. And by the end of that story, because here's how things turned around in the story, and then hopefully that kind of has an impact in real life. Again, this is a real life thing that happened. My daughter asked me one day when she was younger, how come I never see my grandmoms together? Every time one comes, the other one leaves. How come we never do anything together? Did I do something wrong? That's what happens at the end of the story in Gammy's Baby. where the two of them realize they're steady attacking each other, but the damage being done is to the very person that they're fighting over, to the very prize that they're trying to win over each other.
Did they listen to the episode?
Yeah. Oh, they did. They did.
Got it.
I will say it's nothing like how it's portrayed in the story, the intensity of that.
They didn't get in mech suits.
They didn't get in mech suits and fight. And I'll say this, and we can move on. But one of the things that people ask me about when I tell them this is where are the parents in the story? And the thing I tell them is the story says they're on summer vacation. But from a narrative perspective, the robots are the parents. And the grandparents are inside of the robots. Do you understand what I'm setting up thematically? Yeah. That's what happened in real life. My mom gets inside of my spirit, inside of my heart, and her mom gets inside of her spirit, my wife's, and gets inside of her heart. And now we're going at it through our, like we're the mech suits. We're shooting the beams at each other with our moms as the pilots in our heads. Again, just to go back to what you're talking about with world building, particularly with season 2, the end of season 1 and all of season 2, these are very anime, they're fun, there's superpowers, there's battles, there's all sorts of the superhuman abilities, all of that. And then underneath it, it's very much personal stories. The first episode of season 2 is about my insecurities as a parent, that someone would look at me as weak and try to take my children away because they don't think I'm good enough. The second episode is called Brother Rabbit. That was about my identity just as a black man. Have I struggled enough to be worthy of the title black man? And then I just mentioned Gammy's Baby. That was also a very important episode for me because in sitcoms about the black family, you don't see multiple grandmothers. You might see multiple parents, you might see multiple cousins and uncle, but you usually only see one grandparent. And that grandparent is like the heralded grandma. It's just the grandma. And I do think that plays a role in these relationships that grandparents do have that we don't talk about because we've seen it on TV. It's not two grandparents being represented in the black family. You know they exist, they gotta exist, but there was only one grandparent in Family Matters. There's only really one grandparent in Fresh Prince. You didn't see the other ones. And even if there were two, they never interacted. And so we don't have templates in entertainment that talk about that. And then the final episode of season 2 was about a falling out and then the come to Jesus moment with my best friend about being family men. I'm a family man and he hasn't transitioned into that yet. And what his perspectives is on it and what my perspective is on being our age and not having that. And it became a thing. And then that became an episode on how we reconcile. I know I went a little long with that answer about world building, but it's part nerdy kid that grew up watching Power Ranger, X-Men, playing Street Fighter, and then now that I'm a 41-year-old grown man, it's about making those things really matter. And the only way I can do that is to make them matter to me and hope that what matters to me matters to others.
I appreciate that. When you submitted for the Ambies, was it an episode or was it the season?
So you submit an episode, but then you have to drop the link so they can listen to like your whole. But what I like about the Ambies and their submission process, you actually have to submit an MP4. Most other award show competitions that I've submitted for audio, they just want you to provide a link to the Spotify or link to Apple. And I like that they ask for the MP3 because I think that there's more likely, I just feel like it's more likely to be listened to if you're just clicking play on a file versus clicking a button and being taken to another website. And I think that there is a fatigue in that for voters because I've been an Emmy judge before as well. And if you're constantly being taken to links all day trying to get through the voting, I think it can create fatigue in the voting process. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm a both Webby and Signal Award judge, and links can be a little bit much.
And then what the Ambie says is they say, tell us the 5 to 15 minutes to listen to.
Yeah.
I like the way the Voice Arts does it even more. Not only do they not want you to send a link, they tell you to just give them up to 5 minutes. And it can be a collection of whatever it is that you want to put in that 5 minutes. I like that even more. I like that.
It's nice. Okay.
My bad.
Putting people on game. I appreciate it. No, it's all good, man. Listen, this is your experience, and that's what this podcast is. Episode will be about your experience and the things that you want to talk about. So it's great. How are you seeing listeners respond to audio fiction right now? Are they craving something different, in your opinion, from the talk-based shows?
Audio fiction is growing. Fiction, podcasts, audio dramas are growing. But there's a couple of things that are like, I don't want to say holding them back, but I'll just say they're barriers. And then there are a couple of things that are just a reality of a niche. I'll work backwards. The reality of a niche is the people who are really there are the people who are the most engaged. And a lot of times you'll see the same people engaging, which isn't a bad thing. I would rather have 100 people who are really engaged than have 10,000 people that are just kind of, I like his stuff on Instagram. I'd rather have the 100 dedicated or the 10 dedicated or whatever. Even if my listens for that month or whatever, when you check your statistics, if those are down or whatever. And to me, that's just a reality that when you're niche, when you're in a specific space, you reap the benefits of being niche, but then you also understand that you're not for the masses in the way that a regular podcast today might be. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is the barrier. And what I mean by that is platform presentation is imperative. It's the reason why YouTube and now Netflix won the streaming wars. It wasn't necessarily the content, even though the content does blow Peacock and Paramount and Disney Plus out the water. The reason why they won is because they got people there engaged. Before they press play on anything, you are sitting comfortably in the interface of YouTube. The way that it's set up, the ease in which that you can get to things, and now years later when they started implementing algorithms, everything is presented to you in a way that you're invited, you're welcomed, the algorithm curates it for you, the way the buttons, everything is set up and it flows. Even when you have slow internet, YouTube still runs better. The site runs better, even with slow internet, than when you have slow internet and you're on another site and it's, wow, this is really clunky. Because the foundation of what they have is not as good as YouTube. And now Netflix's interface is better before you even press play. It's just better. And now other places are starting to copy off of them. I think Tubi is up there as well in terms of the usability of the presentation of the interface. The reason I bring this up is because podcasting doesn't have that at all. And audio dramas really don't have it. The way that we can present our work, the tabs, the play button, the cover, it is so cool to be able to go on Netflix, go into your profile page, and you got your list of all of your stuff. And because the algorithm is feeding you the stuff that you like, if I'm on a computer, my mouse just grazes over something that is really cool, and I get this really cool trailer. And the trailer is showing all of this great stuff. We don't have that as in audio dramas. We don't have a place to go that does that for us. That's what I mean by a barrier. I am currently working on trying to get Tales onto Tubi. I am working on that right now. And part of the challenge, I have Vimeo videos with like animated cover art to supplement for the visual. That and reading the captions would serve as what you're seeing. But it's a challenge for distributors to catch the vision, if that makes sense. I'm working with one right now, and we're putting together a package. I do believe eventually that's going to happen. I'm trying to get there before one of the big dogs do it. Because as you've seen with Netflix investing in the common, what people think of as podcasting, which is celebrities sitting down talking for 2 hours or whatever it is. But if they can do that, then why can't I do what I do on a Tubi sort of thing? Or someplace else. Tubi has competitors. And then if I can run it on their competitors, why not run it? And I imagine what would that be like for me and Tales or my next project that I'm working on. Absolutely. What would that be like if we could do that? And so I'm on a mission now. That's why I'm doing this thing with Tubi to try to make that happen.
That's amazing. What it's going to take is what we've been saying since the beginning of the conversation, or at least what I believe is that this is what it takes, is for folks like yourself that says, you know what, I'm going to go for it and see what happens. And if it can happen, then you just trailblaze the path for the rest of us to come in and do the same. That's what we talk about when we say we got to break the rules. Because we're all still learning in this space, even the gatekeepers. The only way we can get the keys to the gate is to say, look at what I can do. Look at the possibility here. I know you have no idea what this could look like, but here I am to create something that you've never seen before that can change the game forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we win, man.
Yeah.
So I love that. And yeah, I'm 100% behind you. Any support I can throw behind you and the community, let me know, man.
If I need a reference or something about it, you're one of the first people I would think, especially now that I know that Afros and Audio started in audio dramas. I thought that it was Black podcasting in what I saw at the festival, which was everything.
Yeah, that was a 2018 pivot that then turned into the conference happening in 2019. But the very beginning, Afros and Audio was registered for an online community for Black audio drama creators and producers, writers, directors, because I was looking for support and community and I didn't see it. And so Afros and Audio was built from wanting to build the community that I didn't see. And again, we weren't in the space like we are now. And I'm just grateful that it did become something, because we have stories to tell and we have the innovation and the creativity to make it happen. So I'm just grateful that it's happening now. If someone listening has a screenplay sitting on their hard drive or a story they think is too expensive to make, what would you tell them about starting in audio instead?
From a technical perspective, I'm going to start there, because as much as I am about the thematics and the entrepreneurial part of it, I would actually start with the technical. And the technical would be, how could it be made into audio? How exactly could it be made? And the simplest thing you could do is to get yourself some sort of microphone, even if you have a voice recorder on your phone or something. And for your screenplay, skip over the dialogue and just read the exposition details and record it. Record it and just see how it sounds. I hear people all the time get their friends together to do what's called a table read anyway. If you want to just do a table read for your screenplay and just record it, just listen to it. How do you like the flow of your story? What do you think about the way this flows? And if what you felt about the story writing it, you feel the same way about it while you're listening to the table read, that is basically step one of how to create an audio drama or fiction podcast. Because you can have the bells and whistles of the sound effects and the music and the timing and all of that stuff. I produce things very cheaply because I have the skill to get on to Audacity, which is a free audio editing software. I have the ability, because I've been working with it for years now. I did this with my latest project that I'm working on. Record myself, put that stuff into Audacity, clean things out that I don't want, and I have the ability to go and add the music to it. But if I don't want to, if I just want the story to be just what it is with just me reading it, it's still worthy to be called an audio fiction or an audio drama. Mm-hmm. That's still a worthy thing. So that's what I mean from a technical perspective. Don't overthink it. If you have a screenplay and you're thinking about making it into something audio, grab your phone, grab your mic, grab whatever recording device, and just read the screenplay. If it's a feature, read a couple pages. If it's a short, read a couple pages or read the whole thing. And if you want to have a table read and bring other actors in to do the characters, or if you want to do all the characters yourself, and again, it's just about, do you like the story as presented? The way you felt when you finished that screenplay, or the way you were feeling when you're satisfied with this scene. Do you feel the same way having read it and having listened back? Because if you do, then just finish up the process. Don't compare yourself. Just make it, see how you like it. And if you like it, then you can start doing other things to make it closer to what you want to do. That's the main advice that I would give. But from the entrepreneurial perspective or from the resources perspective, go get Audacity. It's free. Experiment with sound effects. I use a sound effects pack that I bought from Pro Sound Effects. I've gone back to make sure that they don't use AI to produce those sound effects. Same thing with the music and the scoring that I have. I use premiumbeat.com, but you don't even have to do that if you're just trying to get started. There's a place called freesounds.org, especially if you're just trying to see how you like it. Some of them are free, but they don't want you to use them for commercial use. Or some people say you got to give them credit. So I have a couple episodes where I give the account holder credit for making the sound. The YouTube audio library, we are using music that you can upload into your videos for YouTube videos. They're free. Use it. And even if you're just using it just to see how things will sound. And if you're putting it out there on YouTube, which is there's no one music and podcasting platform. That's why they're so big right now. That would be enough to do it. So you don't have to spend a bunch of money to make it happen. I'm just going to give you this last example of something that I'm currently working on. I am working on something that I'm going to release in probably April or May. It's called Meadow Nature. It is a audio fiction wildlife drama. And it's like the National Geographic sort of thing, except we're thousands of years into the future. Humans don't exist, and animals have evolved into like cyborg type animals. And so I just read like I'm a narrator from a wildlife documentary, and I tell these stories of these animals. And I don't need to hire anybody else for that. I just use sound effects that I've already purchased for other projects. And if I was to do this and I need to do it free, with spending no money, I would jump on the YouTube audio library and upload those videos to YouTube and just do it that way. You wouldn't even need to do Spotify or Apple. I can spend a couple $100. I spent $119 for an anime sound effects pack that I've used literally for every episode of everything I've ever made. So I just want to give that as an example of I didn't hire any other actors for that. I didn't use any other resource outside of stuff that I already had. And if I really didn't want to spend any money, I could just go on and use the stuff that's available and just put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And that method got me the Ambie. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah, solid advice. I appreciated those examples and that information. And in the show notes, I'll provide all those resources that you laid out because we want more people. And that was the reason for Afros in Audio in the beginning, back in 2018, is wanting to see more of us in this space without the limiting beliefs, understanding that you're going to grow, but begin to create. You see how it goes, see how it feels for you. And you continue to expand yourself in the space as you have. So I appreciate that very much. And speaking of the projects, tell people where you can listen to Tales of Fist and Fireball, connect with you, and anything else that you want the folks to know before I let you go, including how to find you online and social media.
You can find me on Instagram at Aaron David Harris, just one word. You can also find me on my website, which is ADHX2. So ADH is like my initials, ADH, and then x2.com. That's where all of my projects, audio and visual projects. My bio is there. A link to my IMDb page is there. That's the way to find me. Tales of Fist and Fireballs is available literally on every platform except YouTube, because I was going to do something special with it. Now I'm wondering if I should even do it at all, because I'm trying to do what I'm doing with Tubi. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But while I'm doing that, there's still Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and all the other places that the distributor kicks it out to. I just mentioned that I'm working on Meadow Nature. Right now, I have the pilot episode completed, but I haven't officially released the show yet. That'll be maybe around April. I'm doing like peer reviews on it and making the other 5 episodes.
Nice. I'd be happy to be one.
I was going to ask you about it if you wanted to check it out. Just keep me lifted up. Like I said, I took big swings for the Image Awards, took big swings for the Grammys, which I still see that as a success because we were even made the ballot, because we're not just competing against audio dramas, we're competing against audio books and non-fiction audio books and everything, and we were still able to make the ballot. So I was very happy about that. Oh, and listen, reach out to me on the DM or the messenger or whatever it's called on Instagram for any advice, questions. Ever since I won the Ambie, I've been getting questions from all over about how to get into the audio fiction game. What resources can I get? How much did it cost, or how long did it take? Or when I'm through with it, where can I compete besides the Ambies? Because the Ambies is a big swing, but there are literally dozens of other places. I basically used some of the other places as a workshop for, should I submit this to the Ambies? There were other festivals across the world. That's what's so awesome about what we're doing. You can really send your stuff globally. I've been to Sydney, Australia, I mentioned Toronto, Wales, and then all sorts of places within the States that are into audio fiction. There are Oscar qualifying film festivals that have a podcasting category or have a fiction podcasting category, like Holly Shorts, the Nashville Film Festival. And even if there aren't other festivals that will take the audio, you've written something and it's a screenplay. And those festivals for darn sure have screenplay competitions. So reach out to me if there are any places you want to send your work once you've had it made or once you got it completed. If there's any places that you're thinking about sending it, or you need some places that you want to send to, I have a wealth of those, from the highest of the highs to the more smaller places that you might feel more comfortable sending stuff to.
I was considering if I was going to mention that because we've talked about Afros and Audio and its catalyst, its beginning, that's actually where I'm heading back. It wasn't there in 2017, 2018, but there's space for it now, and we've got to be able to support each other. We want to see more of us in that space because there's an exhaustive library of the golden era radio, and we were not a part of that at all. And just like you had that conversation with Richard at the conference, what happens when more of us are together having these conversations that supports each other to move this forward and change the game? We're heading back, and I appreciate this conversation with you. We'll continue. Yeah. This is just the beginning. I appreciate your contribution to 2025's Afros and Audio. Thank you for being there, and we'll stay in touch. And I appreciate your time today, man.
Thank you so much, man.